Jake stood frozen at the bus door, heart pounding as the driver slammed it shut, refusing to let him board with Rex, his lifeline and service dog. Whispers erupted. Anger simmered beneath the surface. What no one expected was how far this confrontation would ignite a battle far bigger than a bus ride. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The morning air in Dallas bit sharply at Jake Harris's face as he waited near the bus stop. His breath formed small clouds that drifted upward and disappeared into the gray sky, matching the storm gathering inside him. Rex sat obediently by his side, ears alert, eyes calm. The calm Jake so desperately needed, but rarely felt since returning from war. The bus was late, and every passing car added to his restless anxiety, but the looming appointment was non-negotiable. It was a day Jake had circled on his calendar weeks ago. A session with his VA psychiatrist, a chance to tackle the nightmares and flashbacks clawing at his mind. When the bus finally pulled up, Jake's hand tightened on Rex's leash, the familiar weight, a tether to reality. As he stepped forward, Rex's steady presence filled the void that too often swallowed him whole. Mark Daniels, the driver, was already watching them. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a weathered face that spoke of hard years and harder choices. Jake recognized the lines in Mark's eyes as the same ones etched on his own mirror. The silent, unspoken scars of military service. But recognition didn't translate to understanding. As Jake approached, Mark's face hardened. "No dogs on this bus," he said before Jake could even get close. There was a finality in his tone, like an immovable barrier. Jake blinked, disbelief crashing in waves. "He's not just a dog," Jake said, his voice low but firm. "Rex is my service dog. He helps me manage my PTSD. I have the paperwork right here." Mark glanced at the documents, barely skimming them, before shoving them aside like they were meaningless scraps. "I get it, man, but I've got rules to follow. No animals. It's about safety. Allergies, people who are scared of dogs. You're asking a lot to put others at risk." Jake's chest tightened, anger simmering under a veneer of controlled breath. "You're risking my safety right now," he said, his voice sharpening. "Rex is trained. He's not a threat to anyone. Denying me this isn't about safety. It's discrimination." A tense silence hung over the bus stop, thick and suffocating. Some passengers shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances but unwilling to intervene. Others watched with quiet judgment, perhaps seeing only a man with a dog and a bus driver enforcing rules. But Jake felt every eye like a needle piercing through him, amplifying his humiliation. The sense of betrayal by a man who wore the same uniform once cut deeper than any wound from combat. Mark folded his arms, unwavering. "I've got a family to protect. I can't take chances on this job. It's not personal." But it was personal. Brutally so. Jake's hands clenched into fists, the rage burning hotter with every second of rejection. He had faced enemy fire in hostile lands, stared down death more times than he could count. Yet here, on his own soil, he was denied something so simple: dignity, a lifeline to keep the darkest parts of his mind at bay. Rex sat quietly, sensing his partner's turmoil. His calm was a stark contrast to the storm raging inside Jake, a reminder of what was at stake. This wasn't just a matter of a bus ride. It was about respect, recognition, and the invisible battles veterans fought every day. Mark's eyes flickered with an unspoken conflict, the weight of his own struggles clashing with his rigid stance. He wanted to be the protector, the enforcer of rules that kept his passengers safe. But the sight of Jake, defeated yet defiant, planted a seed of doubt. Was he truly doing the right thing? Jake took a slow, steadying breath, fighting to keep his voice steady. "I served my country. Rex serves me. This is the law, Mark. You can't just ignore that." But Mark's jaw tightened. "You don't get to tell me how to do my job." The murmur from the crowd grew louder, some murmurs of support, others just uncomfortable silence. Jake's face flushed with shame and fury. He was trapped between the fight he'd already fought abroad and this new battlefield, one where his own rights were being stripped away by someone who should have understood. The bus door remained closed. The driver's refusal was final. Jake looked down at Rex, his loyal companion, and felt a profound loneliness settle over him. The city around them bustled, oblivious to the quiet war waging at the corner of a bus stop. This moment, small to many, was a crushing blow to everything Jake believed in: justice, brotherhood, and the promise that service meant something. Mark started the engine without another word, the bus pulling away as Jake stood frozen. The bitter taste of rejection burned in his mouth, and beneath it a fire ignited, anger that would not be silenced. It was the first spark in a battle far bigger than a bus ride, a battle for respect, recognition, and the dignity every veteran deserved. News of the confrontation on the Dallas bus ignited like wildfire, spreading swiftly through social media channels with a force that stunned even Jake. Within hours, the incident became a rallying cry, not merely about one man and his dog denied a ride, but a glaring testament to the systemic disregard faced by veterans with invisible disabilities. The outpouring of support flooded comment sections, veterans forums, and advocacy pages as thousands voiced shared frustrations and deep wounds. Stories spilled forth, stories of being dismissed, overlooked, or treated like burdens by the very society they had sworn to protect. Jake's experience crystallized a painful truth. The battlefield didn't end overseas. It followed veterans home, embedded in everyday interactions, subtle exclusions, and silent prejudices. Veterans groups mobilized instantly. Facebook pages dedicated to service animals and PTSD awareness posted detailed accounts of Jake's ordeal, urging followers to stand in solidarity. Disability advocates wove the incident into broader discussions about accessibility rights and the daily struggles faced by those invisible to the naked eye, but weighed down by unseen battles. The hashtag #RideWithRex trended locally and beyond, accompanied by calls for policy reviews and accountability. Ordinary citizens, people who may never have known a veteran personally, expressed outrage, posting photos with their own service dogs or sharing stories of loved ones denied similar dignity. Amid this swelling wave of support, the bus company's corporate offices found themselves thrust into a crisis far beyond their usual operational challenges. The public relations team scrambled, watching in real time as online outrage mounted. The company was at a critical juncture. Negotiations were underway for a massive federal contract to transport military personnel and equipment nationwide, a contract that promised financial stability and prestige. Losing it would be catastrophic. CEO Linda Barrett, a seasoned executive known for her no-nonsense approach and fairness, convened an emergency meeting to assess the fallout. Linda absorbed the details with a measured gaze. She understood the gravity, not just of the public backlash, but of the underlying legal and ethical failures. When Mark Daniels, the bus driver at the heart of the dispute, requested a private meeting, Linda listened closely to his side. Mark, a man worn thin by years behind the wheel and haunted by prior accidents, explained his motives in halting detail. His refusal stemmed from a genuine fear, his way of trying to maintain order and protect the safety of every passenger on his bus. Mark's fears about allergies, liability, and the unknown behavior of animals in a confined space were not born of malice, but of a deeply ingrained caution and his own history of traumatic events. Linda's sympathy was tempered by a hard reality. The law was explicit. Service animals must be allowed, no exceptions. Company policy mirrored that federal mandate. Mark's actions were a clear violation, one that exposed the firm to legal jeopardy and moral scrutiny. The tension between Mark's fears and the company's obligations created a complex portrait of blame, responsibility, and the need for change. As the public clamor grew louder, Linda recognized the necessity of decisive action. She reached out to Jake Harris personally, crafting a message that balanced corporate accountability with genuine apology. The letter was succinct but heartfelt, acknowledging the company's failure to uphold its commitments and offering an olive branch, a chance to meet, discuss restitution, and chart a path forward. The invitation was not a mere PR maneuver, but a carefully weighed gesture, signaling a desire to learn from the mistake and restore trust. Jake, who had weathered countless storms both on and off the battlefield, received the outreach with guarded hope. The emotional toll of the incident had left deep scars, but within that pain flickered the possibility of justice and recognition. He agreed to meet, not out of naivety, but from a cautious determination to turn this moment of personal injustice into a catalyst for wider change. Behind the scenes, preparations began for the meeting. Linda marshaled her team to develop a comprehensive plan addressing service animal policies, employee training, and community engagement, measures aimed not only at repairing reputation, but at preventing future harm. The company's legal advisors reviewed federal disability laws, while communications specialists crafted narratives to share lessons learned without downplaying the severity of the failure. For Jake, the meeting represented more than a chance for apology. It was a beacon of rising hope. The landscape of his post-war life was littered with obstacles, but this moment hinted at progress, the fragile emergence of understanding between institutions and the individuals they served. The pain of exclusion had ignited a fire, not only in Jake's heart, but across a community ready to demand respect and dignity for every veteran and every service animal by their side. The conference room buzzed with an intensity that went beyond the usual press event. Reporters leaned forward, cameras clicked relentlessly, and the air was thick with anticipation. At the center stood Jake Harris, his posture steady, eyes clear and unwavering. Beside him, the quiet strength of Rex, his service dog, calm and alert as ever. Opposite Jake was Linda Barrett, the CEO whose company had become the focus of a nationwide reckoning. Together, they formed a tableau of accountability, resilience, and the possibility of transformation. Linda's voice rang out, measured but firm, as she addressed the crowd. The announcement was both a commitment and a public reckoning, a comprehensive, company-wide initiative to train every bus driver and employee on disability rights, service animal accommodations, and the profound respect owed to veterans and those with invisible disabilities. This wasn't a mere symbolic gesture. It was a pledge to dismantle ignorance and bias from the ground up. The training would be mandatory, repetitive, and backed by a strict zero-tolerance policy against discrimination. "We must do better," Linda declared, "not only because the law demands it, but because our shared humanity requires it." The room absorbed the gravity of the moment, but the weight of the announcement was only deepened by the news that followed. After rigorous vetting, the military had awarded the contract to Linda's company, but with a renewed mandate, respect for veterans and their unique needs would be non-negotiable. This contract was more than a business triumph. It was a testament that integrity and empathy could coexist with operational excellence. The military's decision sent a clear message that policies protecting the vulnerable weren't obstacles, but standards to be embraced. Mark Daniels, once the rigid gatekeeper on that Dallas bus, now stood before the cameras with a humbler posture. His public apology to Jake was direct and unambiguous. "I was wrong," he said, voice steady but laced with regret. "I let my fears and past experiences cloud my judgment. I failed not only Jake, but the many veterans who rely on service animals every day." His offer to lead the new training sessions was a striking display of personal accountability. No longer the antagonist, Mark had become a vital part of the solution, someone willing to confront his own ignorance and help others do the same. Jake accepted the apology not out of concession, but from a place of profound strength. He recognized the complexity of Mark's fears and knew that true change required understanding those fears rather than vilifying them. "It's about learning," Jake said quietly, "and growing. That's what makes us better, not just as individuals, but as a community." His forgiveness was a bridge, signaling that while the wounds of discrimination ran deep, healing was possible when met with humility and effort. The ripple effects of the incident extended far beyond the conference room. Across the country, conversations flourished about the rights of service dogs, the realities of invisible disabilities, and the urgent need for cultural shifts in how society honors veterans. Advocates used Jake's story to illuminate gaps in knowledge and to push for legislative improvements. Social media campaigns proliferated, highlighting daily struggles faced by those relying on service animals. News outlets ran in-depth features showcasing the human stories behind legal protections, while military and disability organizations collaborated on awareness drives. Jake's courage, his refusal to accept disrespect, and his insistence on dignity became a beacon. He embodied how one individual's steadfast stand could ignite systemic change. His journey resonated because it wasn't just about him or Rex, it was about a collective demand for justice and respect. Through his example, others found their voices and strength to challenge their own injustices. When Jake finally spoke at the close of the conference, his words cut through the noise with profound clarity. Rex isn't just a dog. He's part of me, and no one should have to fight for the dignity and respect that comes with serving their country, whether on a battlefield or at a bus stop. The simplicity of his statement belied its power. It was a universal truth, one that called on society to recognize and honor the sacrifices of veterans not only in grand gestures, but in everyday moments of compassion and respect. As the cameras faded and the crowd dispersed, the story of Jake and Rex lingered. It was no longer just an incident. It had become a movement, a testament to how persistence against injustice, rooted in strength and empathy, could reshape attitudes and policies. In that room, surrounded by the voices of change, Jake stood not merely as a man wronged, but as a symbol of triumph, of hope that could outlast anger, inspire reform, and leave an enduring legacy of respect for all who serve.